contribute to the lifelong process of professional development. We are just small players in the big picture of life. And we start them on a journey where we think they will continue making a difference for Egypt, because this is about the students, but we have a bigger goal, to serve Egypt in whatever way, so there will be a ripple effect. You have one graduate, they work with 50, 100, 200, whatever in their life to make a difference for the country. The school has had a vision not only for Egypt, but a regional one. And we have tried to provide the best possible experience to start opening for them different ways of thinking to help students for the 21st century. One of the reasons we are a little delayed is one of our students is in Stockholm, and she's going to present her thesis on Skype. So they're trying to reach her. She was with us when she was taking the coursework, and she is unable to be here, so the way for her to present is by Skype. We hope you enjoy the presentations. We hope you enjoy the enthusiasm of the students. They are fantastic. We can hardly stop them. They are on a roller coaster. You should expect big things from them. If they don't, ask them why not. Because they are prepared to continue contributing. Thank you for being here. Try to stay as long as you can, because we do have 8 students. Everyone is given 18 minutes, with the hope that we can keep clock and have this continue. And I'd like to honor the students and thank them for leading each other in terms of giving them the forum to present today. Thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed today.
Self-Efficacy in Egypt. It's a comparative relationship study of their relationship. It's under the supervision of Dr. Nagor Gahid, and it was read by Dr. Stacey Jones. Hugo and Fossum have identified professionalism as the ability to understand and comprehend how classrooms and schools are structured and why, as well as how teaching learning might be structured differently to better meet the students' needs. This implies that the teachers should be able to participate in the decision-making process of their schools. However, in Egypt, Egyptian teachers perceive that teaching is a very tough profession and that it has become very unpleasant these days. For example, in Megad and Ginsberg's study, one of the teachers have indicated that in their school, if a teacher comes late, their name is announced in the microphone. Another teacher has highlighted the interference of the parents and that they have gained power over the teachers. Other challenges that the Egyptian education system is facing may be the economic challenges, especially after the revolution. The education system in Egypt is one of the largest in the Middle East. However, there are a lot of economic constraints. Another challenge is the private tutoring business. Private tutoring has created a lack of trust between the administrators and the teachers within the schools. The administrators do not trust that the teachers will make the decisions that are best for the school, but they take decisions that benefit their own private tutoring business. while the teachers do not trust that the administrators will actually consider their opinion and decision making. So it has created lack of trust. In order to overcome these challenges, the Ministry of Education has come up with a reform in 2007, under which a new cap for teachers' performance has been created, and they established a professional academy for teachers. Among the factors that are used to determine teachers' promotion is the performance of teachers inside the schools, meeting the goals of the schools, creating a self-evaluation process, and certificates that are obtained from the Professional Academy for Teachers. So central to improving the teaching quality will be providing teachers with additional space and autonomy within the school and classroom pedagogy in order to boost the teachers' motivation to teach effectively. Self-efficacy is a motivational factor that is derived from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it has been identified by Bandura. Self-efficacy is the person's belief in his own capabilities and competencies to achieve certain goals. So a teacher with high self-efficacy will believe that he can and he's able to perform efficiently and effectively to deliver the information that he's supposed to deliver. My research explores the relationship between teachers' participation in decision-making and teachers' self-efficacy. Many research has linked both, and because if a teacher, it's like a cycle. If a teacher participates in the decision-making process of their schools, they will want to, they will internalize the goals, and they will want to achieve those goals. And when they achieve the goals, their self-efficacy will increase, and hence they will set higher goals, and so on. I used quantitative and qualitative data. The quantitative data was collected using two tools. One to measure the teachers' their perceived self-efficacy, and one to measure their the degree of shared decision making. It was distributed among 78 teachers, mostly from the professional educator diploma here at AUC. And the qualitative data was a semi-structured, focused group discussion that was carried out among 5 participants, 4 of which were teachers and 1 administrator. It was an open-ended discussion to gain in-depth responses about the teachers' experiences. I attempted to answer 3 main research questions. The first question was to determine to what extent do teachers engage in shared decision-making in Egyptian schools. Number 2, how does the engagement of Egyptian teachers in decision-making process reflect on their contribution to the school's progress and improvement? And what is the impact of or the relationship between teachers' self-efficacy and their involvement in shared decision-making? The findings regarding the shared decision-making, we can see that mostly, most of the teachers, around 80% or more, participated in shared decision-making. Almost never, 7% said that they almost never participated in shared decision-making. And regarding the self-efficacy, again, it's the same shape. We can see that most of the teachers also had perceived that they have a high self-efficacy. And again, only 7% perceive that they do not have, they can't contribute and they don't have high self-efficacy. In other words, 4 out of 5 teachers indicated that they have some degree of self-efficacy. This is a comparison between a study, a measurement of their relationship. We can see that it is a parallel relationship, and that as teachers' participation in shared decision making increase, their self-efficacy increases. However, they reach a point after which the impact of shared decision making does not have an impact on their self-efficacy. But they still both decrease, but self-efficacy was higher than their shared decision making. The interpretations. Teachers are not interested in participating in all aspects of decision making in schools. They are more interested in participating in decisions that will affect their instruction and pedagogical practices. Another interesting finding was that teachers' participation in decision making gradually increases and reaches its peak for teachers working between 6 and 10 years, which is almost their mid-career, and then it starts to decrease. This is, I think, this needs more study, but it was also emphasized in one of the interviews when the administrator said that when they look for promoting teachers inside the schools, they usually first select the teachers who participate in decision making regardless of their years of experience. Teachers believe that the school's performance was expected to progress due to teachers' participation in decision making and hence lead to high levels of their acceptance of schools. One of the participants in the group discussion said that if the teacher is marginalized, the needs of the students will be marginalized, and hence there will be minimal progress for the school's performance. Teachers' instructional and disciplinary self-efficacies, as well as their self-efficacy in creating a positive school environment, were high, and at the same time their decision-making related to, they have high decision-making related to student work and participation. And hence this also emphasizes that when they participate in decision-making, their efficacies increase. And there is a parallel relationship between shared decision-making and teacher self-efficacy, whereby a teacher, as a teacher, shared decision-making increase, the teacher's self-efficacy also increase. Except, of course, like I've shown you before, there comes a point after which the impact of shared decision-making is not high on their self-efficacy. And this may be because even though they do not participate in decision-making, it does not mean that they lack self-efficacy. There are other factors that affect teachers' self-efficacy. For example, one teacher said that he did not participate in decision-making in the school, but he will keep on seeking professional development until he reaches posts where he can participate in decision-making. And also the administrator who was participating in the group discussion has emphasized that some teachers may be good and they do their work as required, but they're shy and they don't want to participate in the decision making. They're shy, they don't want to express their opinion. I recommend to take this research to a larger scale and perform it on public school teachers. and compare between the results of public schools and private schools to further study, and also to take it to other governorates in Egypt, because environments affect this. And I also recommend further studies behind the bell-shaped relationship between the years of working experience, self-efficacy, and shared decision-making. And that's
and she is going to present her thesis titled A Needs Assessment Study of Science, Engineering Faculty Development Needs at the American University in Cairo.
But they have to see my presentation. It's full of diagrams.
This second and the first.
Okay.
I'd like to welcome Chris Kuparides, who will be presenting a thesis titled The Societal and Parental Involvement Dynamics that Affect Creativity of International Baccalaureate Students in Cairo. Welcome, Chris.
Alright. So I've been an educator for about 5 years now. There's nothing that excites me more than being able to promote creativity within my classrooms. The reason behind that is because it's a loose, spontaneous, and a very frequent times, very ambiguous term, and usually falls under the category of you'll understand when you see it. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of the times it can become very specific, but for the purposes of this paper, I kind of defined it into 3 major categories. These categories are defined as sensations, feelings, and productive outcomes that come along when a person is actively engaged in an activity. This productive outcome could be a notion, an idea, or something that could potentially be of substance. Now, the difficulty behind this is that it can rather become very ambiguous, it can rather become very, very vaguely defined, but this was as close as I could get. Now, there's some certain roles, there are certain key figures that play a role within being able to promote creativity in a person, within particularly a school. And those 2 primary roles that I identified within this study were those of the parent and to a greater extent that of the educator. Now, from a general perspective, human relations, wider social and cultural interactions are the 3 major categories. From the human relations, I investigated the relation between the parent and the student, and to a greater extent that of the educator. The social context was that of the IB school, particularly the one that I'm employed in. And the cultural interaction was that anything that is associated with the Egyptian culture, since the school is indeed physically found in Cairo. Now, my research interests, they revolved around inviting students from that school to a polyvocal discussion. Polyvocal means just being able to put a lot of people within the room that have some sort of a knowledge of the particular matter and they can actually discuss it, and to come up with ideas or interpretations of the three major issues that I was looking at. The three major issues that I was looking at were, how do they see creativity in the school? Is it available inside the IB school? Is it actually promoted? And to what degree their parental inclusion actually affects their creativity? So they have to answer those two things. Now, primarily, the type of data that I used was qualitative. And there's a reason behind that. Yeah, I know, numbers are very, very reasonable, and they provide a lot of justifications, but hear me out. Language in itself is the most creative aspect that we have. And for that matter, every time we speak, we use about 100 billion brain cells. So what's more specific, or what better way to study creativity than to actually utilize the most creative tool that we have, which is language. So it's a very, very consistent example. So, of course there's some skepticism, and of course a lot of people are going to label this study as a case study, and there's even literature out there that labels it as backyard research, simply because I'm a graduate student doing research in my own place of employment. But, although that might be okay, there are some certain factors, some certain advantages that I had being a part of that school. Those advantages were the fact that I had direct contact with the students. I was able to get my hands on student work that actually portrayed creativity. And I had specific knowledge of the school culture since I was in that school for about 4 years now. So that gave me an edge in being able to interpret my results. Now, through the 6-month process that we discussed things, I was only able to get to see the students only a handful of times. And the reason for that is, don't forget, these students are highly engaged in their work. They're usually very, very tight on schedule, and they're not very much available. So I had to book appointments at times that a lot of the time they would be doing their homework, or they'd even be on break. So some of the quotes that I'd like to share with you, which are direct things that students actually answered to a number of questions, are some of these. You see, creativity is being able to express your thoughts or feelings in a manner that would allow another person to experience the exact same state of mind. Bear in mind, this is a 16-year-old student. Another quote, a different student said, "From personal perspective, if someone strives to be creative, he will find ways to place himself in an environment to do so. But in a lot of the times, the environment we're in is not supportive of that." Now, the environment that we're talking about is that particular school. I'm not talking about schools in general. I'm talking specifically about the schools they are in, which happens to be an IB school. And my favorite one, which is kind of long, but it's worth the read. "A lot of learning happens inside the classroom, and opportunities for creativity are there. Sometimes you have to focus on your grades, and you have to stay up all night studying, and that's okay. But it's when you talk to your peers or your parents about a specific idea where creativity is refined the most." So, from these 3 quotes, I'm able to identify positive and negative outcomes from this particular environment. I'm able to understand that there's some places within the school that actually promote creativity, and there are relationships with their parents that could, in one way or another, promote their creativity. There was a common concept that was frequently brought up, which was the bedtime stories parents used to read to their kids. If I were to apply this to me when I was back in school, I had my parents read stories to me before I go to bed, which weren't your normal 3 Little Pigs or Little Red Riding Hood. They used to revolve around Hercules and mythical creatures and Greek mythology. Now, I don't identify myself as the most creative person, but I can say that that sparked a great interest to the matter. Now, what's my final result? After being able to take in a lot of qualitative data from the kids, I was able to identify patterns and common ideals, which resulted in identifying the educator and the parent as directly responsible for keeping the innate sense of creativity alive and being directly responsible for promoting that particular skill. So you're going to ask me, fine, here you come and lecture us about creativity. Was there an example in school where it actually happened? Yes. About 1.5 years ago, I in one of my classrooms. This is an extract of an actual task that was given in one of my classrooms. Sounds very simple. I'll just give you some background on the lesson that I had. It was a class about enzymes. Now, enzymes are just a very, very small class of molecules that are basically there to increase the speed of reactions. They just basically take a reaction from point A, they take it to point B in a faster amount of time. Now, so the task was, after going through the necessary context, which was giving them the information about the science behind it, I asked them to give me an analogy of what they would consider to be a particular process that would help them somewhat understand the process. And this is what I came up with. They basically designed a crossroad with a police guy standing in the middle, and they basically used vocab, the four necessary vocab words that were identified as key vocabulary words for them to be able to know the concept, and they designed this. They have a traffic guy in the middle who regulates traffic. Reading off the slides, it says, 2 streets that cross the path, the traffic guy, which is the enzyme, speeds up the traffic, which is the catalyst, by lowering the number of cars going through the same street, which is the activation energy. Now, so you can avoid a traffic jam, which is denaturation, which is in the case the enzyme kind of starts to break down. This is a perfect example of how you can simply promote creativity within the classroom. I'm not saying it's a great idea, but hey, it's a sample. This is a 10th grade biology class. Now, taking this a little bit step further, this greatly is associated with Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy is just a pyramid that associates the learner being able to go through all these levels of learning, and it assumes that you cannot go to the very end, at the top of the pyramid, which is creating, without necessarily mastering the ones below. So, taking the previous example into consideration, my students were able to remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate the situation, and then eventually reach the productive outcome, which was to design an analogy that helped them understand what an enzyme is designed to do. And then at the very end of the pyramid, you've got to create, which is what I'm all about. Now, what's my conclusion out of the whole study? My conclusion is that the students actually positively criticized the evolving views of creativity. They were very well aware of what creativity is. They were very well aware that it actually is promoted in their school, but only in certain areas. Now, a little bit of background for this particular school, it's a high-functioning school, which means that in certain classes, and particularly those that are associated with the national Egyptian curriculum, in 3 main areas, that being religion, social studies, and the Arabic language, they aim at having high levels of assessment, which means they don't give a lot of room to the educators to creatively come up with subjects, because they just have to cover a lot of content in a very, very short amount of time, since they're dictated by the deadlines of the actual ministry examinations. However, they did mention several times that in other IB classes, whether those are the nature of biology, language, and even mathematics, they were able to be exposed in certain situations that actually did promote creativity. What are my future directions? Well, for one thing, I'm still working on this, and of course I'm going to continue working on this if I actually want to continue pursuing higher levels of degrees. If anybody would like to take this a step further, all you could do is just investigate further on how creativity is perceived by Egyptian students in IB schools in Cairo, because that's where we are. What I am doing, or what this study is offering, is a preliminary insight on what the perceptions of creativity are at an IB school in Cairo. So if you want to take this a step further, you could actually investigate other schools in other regions within Cairo, and even greater Egypt. I don't know if there are any IB schools in Alexandria, but that would be a possibility. Of course, initially when I first thought about this, I had 3 phases that I wanted to go through. I wanted to go through the student perspective, which is actually the one that I vaguely went through, to a greater degree, to talk to the parents, and to a greater extent to IB senior staff. So right now, I'm standing as students. If I wanted to take this a step further, people could actually even investigate the perceptions of parents and the perceptions of IB senior staff in a sense of, well, this is what's going on there, and actually creativity is being promoted in the IB program. What do you think about this? This could be a great leeway for people that want to do that. So those were the societal and parental involvement dynamics but I tried to study in a very, very limited amount of time. I had my challenges. Of course, this would not have been possible without the supervision of Dr. Parental, and I really thank him for his clear guidance, and Dr. Heba Derevi for her very valuable feedback. And that's about it. Thank you very much. In terms of 21st century skills, let's not forget, we're in a world where we're trying as much as possible. The growing trend is that of globalization. We're trying to become integrated to a global society that becomes markedly competitive. So for you to become relevant and competitive in today's world, you always need to be up to your toes and you always need to come up with something interesting. So for you to get to the point where you're going to innovate or come up with an actual product, you need to be able to be creative. So if you don't get to the first step, which is creativity, a lot of people associate creativity with being the first step towards becoming innovative, then you're not expected to become markedly competitive. So from a global perspective, it's, I think, the most important skill that you need to possess if you want to do that.
I think you will notice the passion students have in terms of the subjects they create or the subjects they select. I did omit two things. I did omit to recognize that we do have 4 international students with us who are completing this year. Chris is Cypriot, right? Greek Cypriot. Oh, he's Greek. Chris is Greek. We had a Yemeni student present on last week. We had a Nigerian and we had a Mexican student who will be presenting in a little while. So although most of our students are Egyptian, the beauty of having international students is it maintains the competitive edge on what we do in the class, because the focus of the whole program is competitive. So they are not shy about arguing with one another because they come, each of them coming from their own particular background. But one of the things you may notice also is we insisted that they attribute their work in terms of theoretical frameworks, in terms of methodology, and in terms of analysis. So this will come through in the presentations. I mean, I sit here and I'm really proud of the students because they kind of stretch themselves and try to identify areas where they have passion, and that's why the topics will be very different. I also omitted to recognize the staff who have worked with the students. Dina Adli, Salma Sibri, Marianne, who have been there answering their questions and facilitating the process for the students, because they usually are very busy, but we have the staff who have been the right hand in making sure things happen. And again, although I mentioned Dr. Rassan as a faculty member, I do not want to undermine the fact that she really made sure the students followed university regulations and completed their work. A very difficult task with people who are very busy. So instead of sending emails 2, 3, 4 times, she continued and never gave up. Thank you, Dr. Rassan, for what you have done. Our hope is that you continue watching and hearing the students who have worked over the 2 years trying to reach where they are now. So in some sense it's unfair to give them only a few minutes, but in another sense at least we give them the floor to share what they have done. Are we almost ready? Okay. When Sandy comes, we will, as you see, all the staff are working with the technology.
Thank you.
Sandy, one more time.
Hello? Okay. Okay, so I think Sandy is ready. Sandy Barstool will present her thesis titled A Needs Assessment Study of Science and Engineering
at the American University in Cairo. Okay. Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me. You can? Okay, excellent. Okay, I'm happy to be virtually there with you today, and I want to present my thesis on faculty development needs. I have to recognize my supervisor, Dr. Jihan Osman, and my readers, Dr. Hassan Hussein and Dr. Samir Jarrah, before I start the presentation. Okay, first of all, next slide, slide 1. I'd like to give you an overview of the field of faculty development so you know where my study is situated. The field of faculty development is a relatively new field, and it consists of 3 major components. Instructional development, which focuses on the design and development of courses, curricula, and student learning. Organizational development, which focuses on organizational structures, policies, and processes. And the last component is faculty development, which focuses on the faculty member as a person. And this last component is where my study is situated. So the next slide will show us a closer look at what faculty development is. As you can see in the diagram, faculty developments are programs, services, institutional arrangements that focus on assisting individual faculty members in effectively fulfilling the roles and responsibilities expected of them at their respective institutions. And faculty development programs should address the faculty member, the role of the faculty member as a teacher, as a scholar and professional, if you look at the green area, and as a person, if you look at the orange area. Most of the faculty development programs around the world focus on the faculty member as a teacher, and some neglect to focus on the faculty member as a scholar and a professional, or as a mentor, or as a person. Some of the typical activities in faculty development programs or some of the services are consultations on in-class presentations, student discipline issues and advising, student evaluation, instructional design, or if the program focuses on the faculty member as a person, then it's workshops on interpersonal skills, stress and time management, assertiveness development, and the faculty member as a scholar and professional. Programs that cater to that would consist of career planning, grant writing skills development, proposal writing, how to do committee work, training for administrative works, and so forth. The slide 3. So why is faculty development important? The apparent answer is it's because it helps faculty members develop the competencies, skills, and knowledge they need to excel as academics. The second obvious answer is because it helps improve the teaching and learning process, which is the mission of any higher education institution. Research has also shown that it is one of the 9 pillars of organizational effectiveness. So decision makers should pay attention to faculty development. Friedman, 1979, also asserted that faculty development programs are a device for creating change in universities and colleges. So what we're looking for is a change in the quality of education or in the effectiveness and productivity of an institution in the midst of financial troubles and globalization, then faculty development is something worth paying attention to. Slide 4. This slide summarizes the major research on the topic that was essential and shaped this needs assessment study. First and foremost, what you should know is that faculty development programs should address all the roles and responsibilities expected of faculty members at their institutions. So not just focus on teaching, but if the institution is a research institution, then faculty development programs should develop the scholarly ability of the faculty members. The second thing is that development programs should address the faculty needs at their different and respective career is non-tenured would have objectives and needs different from a tenured professor, for example. Their priorities change, and thus their need for faculty development change also. Another important factor is that effective faculty development programs should be guided by individual faculty needs. It's not a collective endeavor. In fact, each faculty member should have a say in what they need and perceive as needed for development. Faculty development should also reflect the institutional goals and mission. So what does the institution want to achieve? Where does it want to go? And how can faculty development cater to that? Another important factor is that faculty development should consider faculty as adult learners. And the reason faculty development program planners consider faculty as adult learners is that you need to know that adults learn best only when they are convinced that the knowledge they are set to learn is valuable and relevant to them. Slide 5. So the purpose of this study was basically to assess and explore what do the science and engineering teaching faculty need in terms of development. What challenges do they face as they try to fulfill their different roles? What factors prevent them from pursuing faculty professional development? How do they currently fulfill their development needs? And what strategies do they think are most important to fulfill these needs? This study is important because if we go to slide 6, it will enable decision makers to make informed decisions regarding institutional policies. They won't speculate. They'll be able to know, okay, this is how we can cater to this group of faculty. This is what they need. This is what we need to revise. It will also enable us to evaluate the existing faculty development program content and delivery formats that AUC is investing money and human resource in. Because AUC offers a wide array of services to help faculty develop and assist them in fulfilling their roles. It will also highlight the gaps in the available resources offered by AUC. It will inform the decision-making process of planning, modifying, and optimizing programs to meet identified needs. It will also help us prioritize investment of resources in the midst of budget cuts. It will provide a starting point for future in-depth research concerning faculty development at AUC, and it will also contribute to the limited literature on faculty development in the region, and can serve as the basis for future comparative and international research. If we go to slide 7, the two major research questions that were overarching in this needs assessment study were: what are the challenges and faculty development needs identified by full-time teaching faculty at SSE employed during spring 2014 with regards to their teaching, research, and service roles? And the second broad question was: what institutional support and development strategies are perceived as needed for SSE full-time teaching faculty to develop as academics and excel in their roles? Slide 8 shows 7 of the sub-research questions that were in this study. It was quite a large study, so my aim is to give you as much of an overview as possible. I won't be able to discuss each of the 7 research, the findings of each of the 7 research questions. However, you can see them on the screen. They will give you an idea of the direction the study went in. Okay, let's go to slide 9. So how did I go about designing my study and what kind of methods did I use? I basically designed this study to be a congruent, parallel, mixed methods descriptive research study. It had a So for the quantitative part, I designed an electronic survey based on the literature review and a thorough examination of 8 other instruments. The reason I had to design the instrument myself is because faculty development is very contextual. And each of the instruments that I revised, they modified previous instruments to meet their institution needs. So this is what I had to do. I validated the phase, content, and construct validity, and pilot tested the survey. The sample the survey was directed at was all full-time teaching SSE faculty, which are 104 faculty members. And disappointingly, the results were that 9.6% only of the sample answered the survey, which was really disappointing. However, it was good that I had also a qualitative data collection method. I conducted 13 face-to-face interviews. They were quite lengthy interviews. I actually contacted 53 faculty members to ask them if they were willing to, or if they were available to participate in the study. However, only 13 replied. And the others declined because they were busy or just didn't reply at all. And they were quite lengthy interviews. They ranged from 25 minutes to 75 minutes. On average, an interview was 45 minutes. I also interviewed 2 decision makers that are involved with faculty development at AUC, one on the school level and one on the university level. These are 2 other than the 13 faculty. The data analysis method that I follow was inductive qualitative content analysis. I used software called QSR and Evo to code my data. And I didn't go in with preconceived categories. The categories emerged from the data analysis and from the data itself. And the results of the data analysis process was low interest descriptive summaries with examples of what the different faculty members said. In slide 10, I tried to give you an overview, not of all the findings, because as you saw there were 7 sub-questions. However, these are the most interesting or most important findings. Okay. If you look to the right part of the screen, I think it's to the right, I'm not sure which way you're facing. Maybe it's your left. It's the part where it says challenges and needs. Okay. If you look at this part, so what did I find out? I found out that faculty face a lot of different challenges, and that the challenges they face are very individual and different from one person to the next. For example, in terms of faculty development, if we look at their research role, faculty said that they faced the challenge of time, which was a common response with all participants. They simply did not have time to work on their research. So when I asked them what kind of support do you need from the institution, they simply said, we need time. Another thing that emerged from the study was that faculty would like to develop some knowledge and skills that will help them perform better as scholars, such as the ability to locate grants and funds for their research, how to write grant proposals, how to network with different organizations to be able to get funding and different, maybe international scholars to collaborate on the work. The challenge when it came to research culture at AUC, some of them, not all, but some of them felt that how research is done at AUC is hindering them and does not help them develop as scholars. For example, one faculty member explained that she gets assigned research assistants. However, these research assistants, because they receive like financial aid from the university, teaching assistants, and they have to teach labs, so they don't have time to focus on research, and then this in turn delays their publication, the faculty members' publication, which they felt was very frustrating and hindering to their development as scholars. Another thing was that some felt that it's not a very collaborative culture, that everyone hides their own work, that different faculty members don't all come together and collaborate. Well, that was the case with one faculty member. Another faculty member, for example, disagreed with this. In terms of university and professional service, which you all know is something that AUC expects of its faculty, some of them said, oh, we do need help. We face a challenge when it comes to outreach and consulting, because professional work is a big part of what the engineering and science faculty do. They work with real-life projects, and some of them felt that they need the help of the university in creating more ties with industry and so forth. Some of them explain that they need help and they face challenges when it comes to the committee and admin responsibilities that the university assigns for them. For example, when it comes to committee work, one faculty member explained that he's not really sure what's expected of him as a committee member. Is the work being asked of him too much, or is it too little? Is this his responsibility or not? Another faculty member in an administrative position said he would have liked to receive managerial training and like how to deal with the different categories that faculty felt that they would like to develop in. The first one was teaching with technology. And some faculty members said that it is because technology changes, they'd like to stay current and they want to find what's the latest, how to use it, and so forth. But most of them mentioned teaching with technology actually were referring to online courses and blended learning, which might have something to do with the direction that the university recently has been getting into. So teaching and technology was one aspect. Teaching and learning enhancement was another aspect. Some of them felt like they would like to become better teachers, that they want to, for example, learn of new strategies, new interesting ways to motivate their students and help them learn. Okay, so I thought Ahmed sent me something, I'm sorry.
Yes.
All right, I have 2 minutes left?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I have to wait. So some of them had problems dealing with the students, how to motivate them, how to make them comply, and so forth. However, what was very, very, very interesting was that they did not only perceive a need for faculty development, but they also perceived the need for instructional development and organizational development, which were not initially the focus of my study. However, these were themes that emerged from the data analysis. They wanted a reduction in teaching load, because one of the main barriers to them pursuing professional development was lack of time. They also needed a revision of faculty evaluation and reward system. They said if teaching, in the faculty evaluation, teaching and research have the same weight, but then the way teaching is evaluated doesn't really show how much work we put into teaching, how much innovation we go into the trouble of creating in our courses, and then why should we improve our teaching? Some of them asked this question rhetorically, and some of them said, okay, we will improve our teaching anyway, but the university has to reward us for doing that, or at least has to acknowledge the amount of time and effort that goes into developing interesting courses. And this was a major point that most of the faculty spoke about. And the major barrier, if you look at the screen, to faculty development, to pursuing faculty development, was lack of time, lacking motivation, age and health. Some felt they were simply too old and too tired to pursue faculty development. Some felt that the institutional reward system, as I mentioned, did not encourage them to do so. And some said that the support they needed was simply unavailable. Next slide. So what's the analysis? Needs, the faculty development needs are indeed individual. There is no one-size-fits-all FD program. Therefore, an institution should provide a cafeteria approach to faculty development where faculty can pick and choose from a wide array of programs and services what they need. The second thing is that the needs and challenges correspond to the different roles expected of the faculty, and therefore in program planning, institutions should not only focus on the teaching and learning aspect, but should also provide support for the other roles expected of the faculty members. Number 3, organizational and instructional development were perceived as highly important for the success of faculty. They are not something that should be looked like the other. Teaching reward as well as the evaluation and reward policies and criteria definitely need revision. This is what was reiterated interview after interview with the faculty I met with. I also discovered that faculty are not capitalizing on all the development resources offered by AUC because AUC invests a lot in faculty development. However, when I asked them what kind of faculty development resources are you relying on, a lot of what AUC offers was not being made use of. I also discovered that they have a lot of misconceptions about the Center for Learning and Teaching at AUC, which is a center that offers faculty teaching and learning enhancement services. A lot of them felt that CLT has to do with learning how to use certain technologies or a training on using technologies, which is not the case. So the institution needs to see how they can remedy this misconception. Also, what I found out is that some faculty requested that CLT includes more science and engineering examples in their workshops to make it more relevant and more easy to apply for the faculty. I also, because I interviewed 2 decision makers, found that there is a bit of a discrepancy between what the decision makers think faculty need in terms of support mechanisms and roles in need of development, and what faculty members think they need and the format in which they want this to be delivered. So there is a bit of a discrepancy there that needs further exploration. The major, if you can go to slide 12, the major limitation is that this study did not adhere to the original mixed method design. I had to eliminate the quantitative part because I did not get enough responses for the survey to allow me to analyze the data, and therefore some of the research questions were not answered. For example, I wanted to identify certain competencies that are of priority for development for the faculty members in question. I was not able to do so. Also, the findings reflect the view of the 13 interviewees in the study are not to be interpreted as representative of all full-time faculty at SSD. So we should look critically at the results of this needs assessment study. Lastly, due to access and time limitations, I was only able to interview 2 decision makers, even though they were very key in the institution. I would have liked to interview someone. So to wrap up, recommendations for future research is that the survey should be sent out again at the beginning of the semester rather than at the end, so faculty are hopefully less busy. And so, because I think the survey is very important because decision makers would, as is the case with all educational research, want to see numbers, charts, figures in order to make change. And so it's very important. Another thing is that I feel that it's important to interview the Office of Sponsored Programs they offer and how they cater to faculty's needs. I believe that some of the points that emerged from this research are worth further investigation, such as assessing the effectiveness of the currently available faculty development programs, investigating how mentoring and peer tutoring are taking place in different departments, because I discovered that some say it's happening informally. Also, I believe it's important to explore the perceptions of faculty towards the establishment of a formal mentoring system, which was a recommendation made by one of the decision makers in the study. I also believe it's important to explore the perception of faculty members towards the provision of formal certificate courses as a teaching and instruction and development strategy, because the decision makers had a different point of view than the faculty I interviewed. And that's all. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you to Sandy, and thank you for your patience with the sound. Okay. Our next presenter is named Alia Ammar, and she's going to present her thesis titled The Influence of the DSM on School Discipline Policy and Classroom Management in Private International Schools in Egypt.
Taking a lot of your time today, I think I'll just speed through my results very quickly. Before I begin, I'd like to tell you why I chose this topic. When I was in elementary school, I used to volunteer to work with students who have special needs, mostly those with Down syndrome. And it was always something that stayed with me, and I ended up majoring in psychology as an undergraduate here at AUC. And after that, I started teaching. And during my first year of teaching, I was also the counselor. And it made me see a lot of the problems that students with special needs face, especially the ones where they are referred to disciplinary committees for things that are out of control just because of the disorder or disability that they have. So from this, my topic is the influence of the DSM on school discipline policy and classroom management in private international schools here in Egypt. The DSM is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Disorders, created by the APA. It's referred to more commonly as the Bible for psychiatry and psychology. It is used to make diagnoses for the various disorders that are available. Before I get into special needs, I'd like to talk to you about the international school philosophy. In Egypt, we have a lot of international schools. What happens is we bring curricula from other countries like the US and the United Kingdom, and we apply them here as they are. We don't take into account that they are not tailored to our culture, to our students, or to our needs. So when this happens, our students are expected to do more than they can before they're ready. And then the way we ask them to write changes. As the characters, they change, the direction changes, and then when they struggle, because they're also lacking the vocabulary or the language of instruction, they start to struggle because they can't comprehend everything because they're still weak. We just assume that they have a special needs or learning disability, when in reality they're probably just not ready yet. So special needs, I would define them as children with physical, mental, emotional, or behavioral limitations that prevent them from meeting the expectations we set for them. So this would include learning difficulties as well as giftedness. From here, my research question was, what is the influence of the DSM on private schools in Egypt regarding their discipline policies and classroom management? My research was qualitative. There were two different methods of data collection. The first set was interviews directed towards the middle school teachers and administrations at a targeted school. The school was targeted because it was multilingual, it was an IB school, it's an international school, and because it had a special needs policy. The questionnaires were anonymous and confidential. For the interviews, I was targeting mental health professionals in the field who had experience with special needs or worked closely with those who work with special needs. It was done through a key contact in the field who introduced me to others in the field that I could interview through a snowball concept. Those remained confidential. There was no risk to any of the participants or benefits to anyone who participated. I'll go very, very briefly through my results, bits and pieces of them. From here we can see that most of the people at the school had been there for either more than 10 years or 6 to 10 years, which is very interesting considering most of them did not even know that the school had a special needs policy. Regarding their opinion of the policy, the majority of them felt that it needed to be updated and that it wasn't inclusive of the different types of special needs, nor does it show how to accommodate them. Most of the questions were divided into 2 sections, those who had experience working with special needs students and those who did not. Regarding those who didn't, they were very interested in it had they been given and wanted more training so that they could actually be effective at it, because they believed that it would help them not only become more effective teachers, but that it would also help their students for the future. And they didn't believe that gender had a significant role. Those who did have experience working with special needs students also agreed that gender did not have a significant role, but they still wanted more experience and more knowledge and more training. Again, the next set of questions were divided into those who had training and those who did not. Everyone agreed that they are interested in receiving the training that will help them become more effective and that it should be mandatory for everyone, not just teachers. From here you can see there's a lot of blue. Those are the ones who did not have training, which were the majority of staff members at the targeted school. But the most important thing we can see from here is that no one disagreed to the importance of the training, and everyone felt that they needed more training and that it should be mandatory. For the interview results with the mental health professionals, it was very interesting. They all hated their experience in working with schools. They all said it was very negative. They said schools were very commercial about it, that it was only there for accreditation purposes, and that most schools had little awareness about what special needs are, which was detrimental to the school's community. And generally, it was very good working with the staff, but it was very rewarding and positive working with the students. As one of them said, when you give love, you receive love, and the students tend to feel it the most when you genuinely care about their improvement. Regarding their expectations, it wasn't really very realistic for them working with the schools because the schools had so little awareness and they were just causing more harm. One of the interviewees went further to say that she genuinely had an issue, an ethical issue with the schools, because they have these students there with special needs and they're doing it for all these business reasons, but they're not willing to accommodate them, they're not willing to help them, they're not even equipped to properly work with them, which is very, very negative towards the students. The challenges for the labeling, for having a student with special needs in the school, is that they're labeled, which ends up with them being stigmatized and bullied by their peers. This goes back to the lack of awareness, to the lack of knowledge, the fact that they don't follow procedures at schools to work with the students with special needs, and their lack of willingness to accommodate those students. They all agreed that diagnosis is important because without the diagnosis you can't have the individualized education plan, which is what is tailored to the students' needs regarding their instruction and how they can be tested. They all agreed that the schools, the teachers, the students, the parents, the therapists are all accountable for the follow-up. And when I asked them all about the government influence, which I think we all know the answer to that one, they all very vehemently agreed that there was none. They were very disappointed that there isn't none, and they should be, because at the end of the day, when it comes to special needs, the law in Egypt is, if you want a special needs unit, go for it. It doesn't tell you how. So as I said, the laws in Egypt are vague and insufficient. They don't provide the schools with programs or guidelines or anything at all, which leads to a lack of awareness regarding special needs, which then leads to insufficient training for teachers, administrators, and staff, which leads to further lack of understanding of the implications of special needs, the bullying, the exclusion, all these things. And then it takes away from the rights of students with special needs because they have the exact same rights as everyone else, but in reality that's not what happens here, which comes to show that the DSM has little to no influence in Egypt whatsoever. For my limitations, it was that it only targeted that one school. I didn't include any governmental schools, which would have been a great idea, because this is where the majority of Egyptians receive their education. I was planning on interviewing 5 mental health professionals, but for extenuating circumstances, I only managed to get those 3. Further research should be, I would recommend government schools, because at the end of the day, everything we have here is imported from abroad, whether it's the school curricula or diagnostic tools. So in reality, we can't even assess students in governmental schools for special needs. Best practices regarding special needs do actually something about the government influence, maybe update the law and make it a bit more useful, create accommodation manuals that would be helpful, and creating culturally relevant diagnostic tools for our culture. Thank you.
To present her thesis titled Egyptian Youth Building a Peaceful Community, which is a case study.
Good afternoon. The title, as Sarah said, for my thesis is Egyptian Youth Building a Peaceful Community. And I know some of you must be wondering, what does that have to do with education? If you bear with me for the next 15 minutes, I will explain that. And just as a heads up, all my colleagues have been talking within the formal setting, within school, within the university. I will take you outside of those walls into the informal sector. And my advisor is Dr. Jennifer Skaggs, and my reader was Dr. Ella Bersoum from Public Policy. Okay. So, in the beginning of my master's journey, and especially in the Social Foundations of Education classes with Dr. Jennifer, I was introduced to two philosophers and educators whose ideas changed me forever, John Dewey and Paulo Freire. And I will mention the key ideas that they have from their philosophy to show the theoretical framework of my study. Dewey says, I believe that the only true education comes through the stimulation of the child's powers by the demands of the social situations in which he finds himself. And here, the focus is on the student. Power indicates their capabilities, talents, interests. And the idea of social situations led me to think about learning environment. What kind of learning environment did we experience as students, and what kind of learning environment were we trying to create? And then this amazing quote from Freire hit me. He's talking about violence here, and he says, any situation in which some individuals prevent others from engaging in the process of inquiry is one of violence. The means used are not important. To alienate human beings from their own decision-making is to change them into objects. Wow. This was the first time for me to realize the level of violence that exists within education settings, and to what extent that affected me as a student. I know I was not comfortable, but I couldn't put a name to it. And then the question, the big important question for me became, what are we educating for? And hence, my passion started for peace education. And then, I met with Sinmaya. In February 2014, I attended Sinmaya's first forum, and it's a network of young people who are working towards creating a culture of peace. And it was that. I found what I was looking for. I was searching for a model within Egypt that I could study, and I wanted to find people who were aware of those concepts that I mentioned, violence and peace within learning settings and learning environments, and who had thought of coming up with solutions for this issue. And I found that within Sinmaya. Many young people coming up with creative solutions of how to overcome violence within different settings and with different target groups. And so I came up with my research questions. I wanted to know those people, basically. I wanted to study this group of young people and understand what kinds of experiences and ideas that they have to choose this path. And how are those initiatives structured? What kind of modules were they using? And what kind of structures they were using? Who are they targeting? How are they working? And I also wanted to understand more about what Sinmaya means. What is that? Why did they create create that network? Why were they interested in creating a network of all the people who wanted to work on peace education? And so, as this seems like, it's an explorative study and it's a case study of Selmaya. And so, of course, it's a qualitative research. And for Selmaya, they had over 50 initiatives, so I came up with a criteria for selection, and I selected 15 initiatives to work with. And so the criteria was basically launch dates. I wanted a mix of relatively old and relatively new initiatives, a mix of how they joined Selmaya and when they joined, and the different structures, and also the diverse fields within peace education. And I'm going to mention how I did this categorization in the next slide. And I collected my data through interviews, participant observations, and collection of documents. Now, how did I come up with the categories? I used Aidan Harris model, and that came up through the literature. What I liked particularly about Aidan Harris model was that it had details about the main components or pillars of what peace education means, and it looked at it as a comprehensive model. So I'm just going to define a couple of those components because maybe they're not very common. So what he means by international education is something related to boundaries and the political connotations that come with boundaries and how that affects us to view the others. And human rights education is clear. Development education is related to the structural issues that cause violence within society and how to work on that. So basically, poverty, injustice, any kind of social injustice. And what's specific about this definition is that it's talking about how to involve people in the planning and implementation. And then there's conflict resolution education, which is related to peaceful resolutions to conflict. I know that kind of is out there. Okay, so this is what happened. I had 15 initiatives mixed between companies, NGOs, or even informal initiatives. The oldest one had started in 2002, and then the youngest one was in 2011. And they varied in terms of categorization within the peace education pillars. But also what is interesting here, and I'm just going to point that out, but I won't have time to talk more about it, is that I found initiatives that were not categorized within Aidan Harris's model. Those arts for social change initiatives, those cultural exchange within Egypt, not about even borders. And also IT integration. Those people who wanted to create portals to create open sources for peace-related knowledge. So it's kind of interesting how theory and practice, the dynamics that go with them. Okay, for the sake, I had so many findings because this is an in-depth research with people who shared generously a lot of data. But so I chose the top 3 findings for the case, for the sake of this presentation. And so, well, the first one is about the key experiences and motives that got the people that I interviewed to start those initiatives. Everybody that I interviewed were founders or co-founders of the initiatives they were working in. And the second thing, which blew my mind, was the methodology of developing the frameworks and curricula. And the third finding that I will share with you is related to Selmaya network. What is the added value of creating that network? Okay, for the key experiences, working within the development field was seen to be a key experience for some of the participants, where it gave them the space to understand more about the community and what kinds of fields were they interested in working in. And they went through different experiences to identify that. And for some of them, just volunteering activities besides work were enough for them to have a transformational view of what was their contribution or their possible contribution to the community. And for some, of course, the 25th of January revolution was a turning point. And that was when they started looking at their role in society and what they can contribute. Now, this is not enough, so they had key motives as well for them to choose specifically peace education as a path. Some had identified the gap within society, so they knew that this is what society needs, and so this is where we're going to work. Some had just this passion towards working with people and making a difference in people's lives. And some wanted to be of real added value. And a couple of people who were outliers there who just had this interest from childhood. They just knew what they wanted to do. Right there, from childhood, they knew they wanted to work in peace education. Of course, the term wasn't there at the time, but they just had the passion. And I have a couple of quotes there. I'm not going to read them, but I just wanted you to take a look at some of the things that they shared. Okay, now for the methodology of developing the frameworks and curricula. This really blew my mind, because this is something that is organic, that is community-based, grassroots, people who are just doing some effort, they believe in an idea, and they want to do some effort to achieve it. And they have three key pillars of how they created their methodology. First was orientation towards values. Values were an important and integrated piece in their work. Almost most of the initiatives that I interviewed had identified core values and their definition for them. This represented the core of their framework. Of course, the initiatives varied in terms of progress and clarity and in terms of this component, but it was there. They were very conscious of it. The second thing was research and readings. So they were just looking for whatever information they could find about the areas of focus that they chose. Be it community organizing, be it art for social change, be it working with children about, teaching them conflict resolution skills. They had all sorts of activities, and they had they all had the same passion to learn more about it. And so through graduate studies, through diplomas, through attending trainings on a regular basis, through conducting research themselves, they had all those sorts of different tools to make sure they were updated and up to speed. And something else was consulting with professors. They had made contacts with professors in AC, in Cairo University, and different universities to make sure they also got help on an academic level. And then there's experiences through practice. So this is a huge component. The most of them acknowledge the role of the experiences they had with either children or youth or adults in shaping their curricula and activities. So they will go back and review their designs based on their experiences. And I just found that so in line with Dewey's quote, the essence of education is the continual reforming and reshaping of activities, and this requires plasticity and the ability to reach new and more complex adjustments. So the outcome of this is actually coming up with very creative solutions of how to outreach to different communities, to work with marginalized children, to work with marginalized communities and have them organize themselves to eliminate the social injustices, to create environmental activism, to do whatever. So all of those sorts of activities they had were based on those three criteria. Am I out of time? Or? Okay. Just wanted to check. Okay, so the third finding was Selmay's added value. And the literature actually says that the civil society organizations in Egypt have many challenges. Some of those key challenges are financial sustainability, resources, and their public image. All of which were identified by the participants as key added value components of being within Selmay network. This network helped them collaborate more. They could collaborate more to achieve sustainability, to raise awareness, creating this pool of resources, creating the support system, all of this, they were able to identify as helping factors to their sustainability. I didn't think I was going to get that far, so I'm really impressed with my speed. Okay, so in conclusion, or my recommendation, is that first, we can learn as educators and as people interested in education, we can learn a lot from the initiatives within the civil society, and vice versa. So this collaboration between formal education institutions and civil society, for me, is a must to create real solutions. And also, the civil society needs to understand that it needs to collaborate within itself. And this is also a key component. And the last thing for us educators to contemplate upon is we need to change, a profound change in the perception about what is the education for. What really are we educating for? Okay, do I still have time? Okay, so the limitations. The sample is relatively small. I only chose 15 initiatives out of, I don't know, there are 25,000 organizations in the civil society. So there's still a long way to go, but those, again, I want to stress that I was focused on peace education, and those were pooled within that network. And that's the amazing part for me as a researcher as well. I'm part of the network, so and I've been helping out, so that is also some limitation. I'm not working with any, or I wasn't working last year with any of those initiatives, but I was involved in the network as an individual. Yeah, now, okay. So, of course, as I said, this is not in the informal. This is not in the formal sector. Although there was one student activity that was within the sample, and they were working in all medical universities actually. And there were some of the initiatives that were actually had partnerships with universities and with schools and were implementing their activities within. Opportunities, of course, this is just the beginning of how this can evolve in terms of peace education as a concept, in terms of looking at how civil society and formal educational settings can collaborate, and in terms of the network itself, the idea of a network and the individuals, the common projects that have happened. There's a lot of dynamics that have happened within the network that is worth, from my point of view, further study. And that's it. Thank you.
Let's take a 10-minute break. Refreshments are in the back. We'll present a research on qualitative phenomenological case study for the first-year experience program at the American University, Cairo. Caroline.
Okay, so it seems like a very strange topic, but it's actually very, very interesting. And the picture here is not because I am graduating, but it's because of the reason behind this research and the results at the end of what we want to achieve. And this was under the supervision of EPES, Dr. Jennifer, and without her support, I don't know what we would have done. Okay, so before we begin, we have to explain what is higher education. Well, higher education, the fact that you guys are all here, you understand the importance of obtaining a higher education or like university studies and graduate studies. Usually this occurs to students who have just ended their high school diplomas, whichever diploma that they have achieved, and then they decided to admit into a certain university to be able to continue their studies. And this is actually, we all understand how important it is to get this education because it's a way for us to reach our careers and get better opportunities. What happens to freshmen when they first enter university? They enter a program called the first year program. And this program actually helps the students transition from high school to university life. And this transition occurs on many different levels.
academically, socially, and emotionally. The idea of this initiative is to help students reach their potential and to be able to succeed in their lives. But first-year experience at AUC has a different definition. Globally, it's a very big program that encompasses many, many different things, and it's almost a year-long program. But at AUC, what they call as the first-year experience is not really first-year experience. It is actually the freshman experience and what the freshmen go through. And FYE at AUC actually is one of the components of the freshman experience, which is actually the orientation. The orientation week that the students would go through to help them and aid them at being acquainted with the university. In addition to this activity, we have peer advising leaders, we have freshman programs, common reader programs, and the Academy of Liberal Arts, which are all helping and supporting the students to achieve their highest potential. So why is this study important to AUC? For a couple of reasons. First of all, the AUC is the first university to actually create an FYE system, and this program is not implemented in other universities yet as the formal first-year experience. It could become a model to other universities to use. There are limitations to that, which I will discuss later. This is actually a picture of all the students attending the FYE at AUC and their different activities and their support. So the focus of the research was basically I was trying to understand how does AUC support students who have just entered the university for the first year, and how do they support them to achieve their highest potential, and how do they help them develop. My data was collected in two forms: artifacts, which are like websites and reports, and also semi-structured interviews with all those people and titles. It's semi-structured because it depending on the position and whatever we talk about in the interview, so we just elaborate on that. My data was, I was trying to find congruency between our famous Shikri 7 vectors, which focuses on the student development theory. This was what I was trying to work with, and trying to link it with what AUC is actually doing for students to develop. So what I did was I got my finding and I started to try to link them directly with each vector of the, we're going to go through them very, very quickly, but trying to link them with these vectors where I realized that a lot of things have been put into helping students develop that don't really fall under any of these vectors, which just shows that effort sometimes is not put in the right place, but hopefully soon things will be in the right place so that the students will benefit completely from the university experience. As for my findings, well, the first thing that Shikri talks about is basically developing competence in 3 ways. Intellectual competence, and AUC supports that by creating tandem courses for students where they are in the same class, but they attend 2 different courses, same group, same professor sometimes, and one of them is like more on the discussions and topics and critical thinking, and one of them is on writing. So it supports the student in that way intellectually. Also, in the FYE, again, I'm trying to remind you that FYE here only means the orientation. So the orientation week for the students, they attend certain classes that also help them intellectually to be able to succeed in their first year. In addition to that, we have the freshman program classes, which require each student to get out of their own department and visit 3 different departments, attend classes in at least 3 departments, where they get exposed to other things other than their home. The physical and manual competence, well, there's the new initiative called PAL, and when I did my research back in spring 2014, it was not still launched, but PAL right now is launched. So skills of communication and how to be able to present and how to be able to work together as a team. Managing emotions, where FYE and PAL, they work with students. They try to lift up their spirit and motivation, whether it's in the orientation week or throughout the semester. They have WhatsApp groups, they have Facebook groups, they keep in touch with the student to be able to get them, to give them the support that they need. Many times they just need a friend to talk to or someone to guide them. Moving through autonomy towards independence, well, FYE has two types of booths that they do. One of them is the clubs, which we will discuss later. And here what they do is they have the different majors come and present themselves so that the freshman student will walk around, understand the different majors, that AUC is not only about engineering and business and computer science, it's more than that. So it gives them an opportunity to walk around, to talk about the different majors like sociology, anthropology, where people don't really have any familiar knowledge of. Developing mature interpersonal relationships. Well, as you all know, AUC is very diverse. We have international students, students from lead programs. We have students coming from different high schools and different backgrounds, whether it's French and German and English and British. And what FYE tries to do is to integrate the students together. So they put them in one group with one student leader, and the entire week the students are trying to integrate together. They through games, through activities, through discussions, through group. So this is the establishing identity. The university really focuses on civic engagement and wants the students to be a part of that. They do that through the clubs and activities. If you walk around campus, especially at the beginning of the semester, you're going to find many booths. And in each booth, you have different types of activities being presented, whether you want something related to business, related to volunteer work, related to leadership, and it's very diverse. And it just gives the student the ability to gain extra skills and extra interpersonal skills as well, to be able to succeed in their future lives. The Common Reader Program, it's also a new initiative that started, and it's basically where all the freshmen are reading the same book together. And the idea behind that is that we are one community doing the same thing together, and we're sharing it all together. The findings, well, unfortunately, developing purpose was not very targeted, and the activities that the AUC was doing was not falling under the developing purpose of Chickering student development theory, which is something that we can work on. In addition to developing integrity, where the university creates information sessions about academic integrity, and they need to broaden that and focus more on how to be a good citizen regardless of your education. So my recommendation for anyone that would like to continue in that initiative is that we need to have one main goal, and everyone needs to work together to achieve that goal. What's happening right now is that each department is doing an excellent job but working on its own, and we need to combine all of this together to serve the student and the development of the student. And a lot of resources are being put, so when we focus that all our activities help develop the students, and that FYE is inclusive of all the activities that are going on, and not separate, that it is not just a separate entity on its own. I am a strong believer that we need to teach the students and show them the skills and not just lead them through the skills. We need to give them these skills in a concrete way where they can actually use it and take it with them to continue with the rest of their lives. Also, they need to be active learners, and again, it is not just about me teaching as much as it is how are they trying to get an education. Lastly, the student-faculty relationship, student-leader commitment, and congruent faculty operation need to focus and work together to serve the main purpose of student development. The limitation of this study is that FYE only occurred here at AUC, so one organization, and the different universities around Cairo, or around Egypt actually, everyone has a different culture, so maybe the culture will not be able to be delivered to all the universities, but at least the idea might be taken to other universities around Egypt. Also because this is a qualitative research, and because we did interviews, so there was a lot of bias, and people talking from personal experience, where one perspective might be different than another person's perspective. Finally, for future research, again, because this was done in spring 2014, or actually summer 2014, PAL and Common Reader were not still launched. So the fact that they're launched this fall is something to consider, and we need to monitor, assess, and evaluate what has happened. Are they actually achieving what they need to achieve? Because according to what they told me, that the idea of these two initiatives is to link academic and social life together. So what we need to do is try to figure out, are they actually doing that, or is it just, again, wasted resources? So, to conclude, a lot of the activities are supporting the student. But are we really helping the student? We have to remember that we want to develop our students to be the best. And to do that, we have to work together. We have to have a goal that we're trying to achieve. We have to give them the skills that they need to be able to be successful in their lives. And it is not an individual success. It's an entire organization success. And this is what we want. So we want to together to serve one purpose. And as educators, my advice to you is we want to change the world, and this is our vision, but we can only do it focusing on one student at a time.
Thank you, Karen. Our next presenter is Shita Norwood-Chirby, and her research is critical content analysis of the values applied to gender and race representations in Mexican primary school textbooks.
Good afternoon. I noticed that somebody took us out of Egypt and out of the city, but now I'm going to take you out of the country. I'm going to take you all the way to Mexico, and I really ask you to bear with me my Speedy Gonzalez accent. Okay? It's not una buena. So please, bear with me. I'm presenting my thesis, which Ahmed already announced. You have the name there, where basically here, what I was trying to find is this set of books, the civic and ethical formation books, that are part of the set of the textbooks that children use in primary schools and also in kindergarten. It's a program from the government that they give free of charge to all children, regardless where they are studying, either in private or public schools. They were intended for the public schools, but the visionary president that was a dreamer, then he is, in 1959, he had this big dream, and he realized that Mexico was lagging back in comparison with other countries. At that time, when he took the presidency in 1958, he noticed that Mexico had 14.5 million inhabitants, and 80% of those people were illiterate. So it was a big task, and it was deplorable for him. We call him the president of education, because he was really the one who took the biggest step to totally take the bull from the horns and say, I'm going to modify this. This cannot prevail. This has to change. So he decided to create the free textbooks that they will be given to all children. There were detractors, and there were people that were in favor of this initiative. Definitely, he always responded with this answer. They are all children, and they are from our country. I cannot make distinctions. So these books are used in both systems. Now Mexico, in the census of 2010, you can see that it lowered the illiteracy to 5.6. It's 54 years. So if Mexico did it, I think Egypt can do it as well. We just need the will. Then you see that at the beginning in 1960, when they gave the first books, they only gave 16 million books were distributed among all the children that were participating in this pilot program. From that point on, this amount, it's been increasing. Okay. These books are given to children. Who is entitled to receive these books? Okay? All children, from K to 9. The scope of these books, they are done for all the subjects in primary schools and kindergarten. They also, at this point, Mexico has given 6.2 billion books in 54 years. It's the total books that they have been given to all children. And the idea is that by 2018, this program will cover also senior high school. So nobody has a pretext to say my children cannot go to school because we don't have money to buy books. So there they are. These books are being done also in 42 aboriginal languages, because Mexico it has a diversity in languages with the minority groups. And this is since 1992. And these books have been done also in Braille since 1966. Our impaired children, our visually impaired children, they are reading these books. They are learning from these books. Here, the topic is the representations of images and ideas in these books that will enhance the citizen of the future, the values of the citizen of the future. It seems like we are all stressing this part in education because it's a win-win situation if we teach our citizens how to be honest and ethical citizens of the future. I was trying to find in these books if the representations of gender, race, and minority groups were there. And I will talk about that at the end, that what will we find is. But the message given by these images is that the Mexican government and the creators of the free textbooks decided it was a deliberate decision. They decided to make these books the instrument to change society. But there is something that is disjointed there between the creation of these books and the results that our children get in teens and visa. We'll talk about it. A major part of this research is to study the representations, figuring the textbooks of the civic and ethical formation, and identify what impact, if any, they have on the values of the students and their future development as conscious citizens. It really seems that this thing of citizenship is extremely stressed. Here are the research questions. It's basically boiling down to the same thing that I've been talking about, that is finding these representations. Are our women that they were for such a long time in Mexico, they were subjected to men's will? Are they represented there? Are they making justice? These books, are they making justice to women? Are they making justice to the three races that we have in Mexico, which is the Spanish, the Indian, and the black? We have three groups in Mexico that for years they were denied. So, are we really making justice to this? So, is Mexico complying with what UNESCO is demanding to find in all the countries and how we teach our children? So, Mexico is moving in that direction when they create these books. My method. It's a qualitative research methodology supported by quantitative. And it resulted in a traditional field study. My instruments were surveys, open-end surveys, and face-to-face interviews, and notes that I took as a researcher. The data analysis method was ground theory research procedures. It's the open coding process. My results. The results that I found is that the FTB, the free textbooks, they have prevailed. In spite of being there for 54 years and with a lot of cons and pros. They were more the pros. The liberals, they were always praising them. Those that were engaged in the private schools and the making of books, obviously they didn't like it. But they have prevailed in spite of all these things against them. The production and distributions of these books have prevailed thanks to the persistent intervention of ministers of education that have given continuity to this program. Amazingly, it's a program that it doesn't matter who is in power, which of the parties is in power, the politics doesn't affect education and the way that education is moving in Mexico. Probably is the one of the few tasks that has no interruption. It continues, and they have taken us to the flag that it really unifies Mexicans. When it comes to teaching children, don't think that everything is beautiful. There are things that are disjointed. If we compare these first books with the first books, the initial books, the pilot program, with the current books, we find amazing things. The first books were quite naive when we compare them with these. They were basically just trying to get the problem out of the hole. But lately, they really are aligned with what UNESCO is asking for the international standards. All these groups are positively, the groups that I'm trying to find, the gender and race and minorities, they are highly represented there, beautifully represented there, making justice to all these groups. And I also found that there was, when I did my interviews, I found a correlation between the education of parents and the way they answer my interviews and the surveys. The parents in private schools, they are educated. You can see they all have university degree, but in the public schools we have a difficulty. There is one that didn't even finish primary school. So we have a gap there that we need to bring to the front. Here is another proof that this is the people from the public schools and these are the people from the private schools. So you see that there is more consistency here. And here many people I can interpret it that they were saying things against the books because of the lack of comfort that they don't have. They are poor, they are resented with the government and with the society. That's the way I interpret it. This is another example. I will pass it because I think my time is almost over. And a year ago, the Congress in Mexico just approved another reform in Mexico, which is having strong repercussions in the educational system and the teachers' union. Which this teachers' union was highly corrupted. They incarcerated the general secretary of this union, and it seems that it's more promising what is coming. They are stressing the assessment for teachers and students and everything that happens at schools. So the teachers are panicked because they were not used to this. They were in this comfort zone, you know, that nobody pays attention if I come to school or I don't come. So this is going to be a real revolution in the education in Mexico. My conclusions. Education is not an easy task for Mexico. However, it has been a priority. Since 1959, they have really stressed this. And I am making my own reflection. In Mexico lowered the literacy level, Egypt also. There are many problems that this country is facing, particularly at present, and all of you know that Mexico is in big trouble. And it's all because of corruption and politics that is involved in this corruption. It's not the Mexican people, it's the direction that we're taking. Mexico has to solve immense domestic problems if we Mexicans want this country to continue being considered one of the emerging economies. Mexico is there. It has the potential, but we have a cancer there that is corruption. There are an array of variables that have to do with the economy, politics, etc. They need to be studied. Unfortunately, they are out of the scope of this study. Nonetheless, they are extremely important and all of them are interrelated with education. We cannot disengage them. On the right side, I found that Mexico's approach to education is promoting these values. In the analysis of these books and the results of the surveys and interviews, Mexico has been succeeding in promoting these values of equality and inclusion in terms of gender. The representations in the civic and ethical formation books speak by themselves. The creators of these books, they have stressed that they want to be to the level of all those countries that take education seriously. Just to give you an example, because they are telling me that I'm going to hang with my time. And in this respect, I want to give an example. When you see the children playing during the break, you can listen to them. This is not correct what you're doing to me. I have a right. We're all equal here. Don't tell me that my friend, because she's a girl, cannot play soccer with us. She has a right. And you can see all this beautiful conversation of the children, because I was observing them, that they are talking about rights. And talking about that we're equal. You don't have to talk to the girl like that because she's equal to us. Men, we are not about women. And you see kids that they are 7 years, 8 years old, and they are talking about this. It really means that these books are really making the impression into the minds of these kids. And the limitations of the study. This study was conducted in a very small area, Cozumel. It's an island. I live there during the summer, so for me it was there. The problem is that it cannot represent the whole country. I don't want to fool myself. But it's a little sample that is giving us the tip of the spear, you know, that there is something to be studied there. That we can do this thing, but it's a limitation that we have. Cozumel has only 77,000 people, and Mexico has 112 million people in that massive country. In some ways, Cozumel has its own country, it's a paradise, it's a different thing, but it's a way to begin the study. The suggestion for future research, I sensed in the interviews with the kids and the teachers that parents are not engaging with, especially in public schools, they are not engaging in the education of their children. They really need to compromise more. They are taking, and I think it's the same problem here in Egypt, they are taking that teachers are the babysitters. So I put them in your hands, I don't care what you do with my children, but don't tell me that they have problems. In Mexico, we don't have the teaching out of class. We don't have this. This doesn't exist. So I think at least we don't have that little cancer there. But there are other problems that we have to substantiate, that we have to solve. We have to engage parents. We have to build bridges between parents and school. Otherwise, our kids won't succeed, and Mexico won't succeed. Thank you.
Please, we're going to introduce Sumaya Hassan Kamil al-Mahrabi, and her research is on interactive whiteboards beyond documentation. Are they worth the expense?
As I told you, the problem was that the school invested a lot of time, a lot of money and time in interactive whiteboards. So what I was basically investing is that how comfortable are teachers using the interactive whiteboards in classes, and how do students see the interactive whiteboard innovation in class. So my research question was, what are teacher concerns regarding the interactive whiteboard innovation based on the concern-based adoption model known as CBAM. I'm going to explain this later. And how does the interactive whiteboard innovation affect the teaching and learning process from the teacher, supervisor, and student point of view? So I did I used three instruments to assess this. How effective was the teacher professional development on interactive whiteboard integration in class? What are the obstacles that hinder full integration of the interactive whiteboards? And what does the implementation of interactive whiteboards do to, how does it affect student engagement and achievement or not? Okay. The setting is a national school. It's a language school in Cairo. And this school has different grade levels, but for the students, I focus on middle school students. There are 569 middle school students, boys and girls, and 15 supervisors and academic leaders. Plus 120 teachers. Let me double check. The methodology that I use are three instruments. I utilized three instruments. The first one was a CBAM questionnaire that was for the teachers. It actually assesses their comfortability or their concern towards the new innovation. That's interactive whiteboard innovation. And this instrument was designed in 1974 by Hall and Lux, and I took the permission to use this for this survey for my study from the CIDEN organization. And then the stages of concern questionnaire is a model comprising of 7 stages. These stages are awareness. Are they aware that there is a new innovation implemented in the school or not? Are they concerned because this innovation is going to affect them or not? And then the informational, they want to know more about the innovation. How is it going to affect, how it's going to affect the learning processes, what they should do, and so on. And then the personal, who's going to take the decisions, who's going to evaluate their performance, how is that going to affect them personally and professionally. And then we have the management stage. They should be concerned about the change and how to manage the change, manage the class, manage the students, manage their time, everything that goes with management. And then the consequence. Are they interested in the impact of the student, of the change on the student or not? And are they collaborating with each other to introduce quality learning and quality presentations and using this innovation in a good way, or they are not collaborating with each other and they're working individually? And the last one is refocusing. Refocusing stage is, are they concerned that they should refine the innovation that's used? They should research and they should find more ways to activate and work more on refining the product that they are using. And if there is something that's produced that can help them use it more professionally or not. The result? Actually, I found that there is a significant difference between male and female teachers regarding the stages of concern. As you can see here, male teachers in general in the school were more concerned in all levels of concern than female teachers, except for the management, of course. But actually, it's worth saying here that more than 70% of teachers in the school are female teachers. So this is not like 60 or something, there are more than 70% female teachers. And then I have found that teachers who have worked in the school for more than 20 years or have more than 20 years of experience, or those who are above 40, are more concerned information. They have more concerns, awareness concerns. They have more awareness concerns and information concerns. They are more concerned about the innovation itself, not how to use it, but what's this? We're fine with what we're working with. Why do we need to work with the new innovation? And to say that actually those teachers weren't directly involved with the innovation at the time when I did this study, because this study was done last spring. But now they are all involved in the innovation, and actually I don't know, but maybe the results may change now. So I found those who are more than 40, they are concerned about awareness concern. This is unconcerned. They are unconcerned. This is above 90%. And generally, all the teachers, this is the graph that includes all the teacher results. The highest two concerns for teachers are informational and personal. Most of them want to know more about the innovation itself, how to use it effectively in class, and they want to know who is going to evaluate their work based on the new change. Conclusion: the study suggested that the use of interactive whiteboard have considerable impact on student engagement, but I couldn't really relate this to the student achievement because I didn't have a tool to assess student achievement. So I stick with student engagement in classes. Actually, students were happy with the innovation. They think that they are more engaged when the interactive whiteboards were introduced, and they feel that it facilitates their learning, and it benefits the whole class, and at the same time it helps them learn the new concepts easily and faster. And at the same time, I feel that continuous sustainable professional development is needed for a teacher to meet the teacher needs, because some teachers always complain about technology failure in classes, and they need help, and they need technicians all the time in classes. So to assess teachers in classes is very important in order to make sure that the interactive whiteboard innovation is working effectively in class. Recommendation for future studies. I think that it's very important for us to make the same survey, or to use the same survey that I used to assess the concerns of teachers after 2 years, and to make profiles for teachers' concerns in order to track their concerns towards the new innovation. And then when I first started this, I searched for similar studies that have been done in Egypt, and I didn't find any. Not in the technology, but in using the CBAM to assess the new innovation in technology. I didn't find any. So I think that we should focus more in Egyptian context and compare this study to Egyptian studies that's done in different schools and contexts, and also to compare it with studies that have been done outside Egypt in order to compare the results of the studies. Recommendation for practice, this is what I think we should do at school. Mostly it's focused on professional development for teachers. I think that professional development for teachers should be focused more or imparting 21st century skills like collaboration and communication. Because teachers need this to work in networks and to benefit the students in a better way. Professional development should provide to build teacher confidence in the use of interactive whiteboard. Whenever a problem appears in class, they call the technician, and they don't have the confidence confident that they can fix it inside the class without seeking the help of the technician or asking for walkie-talkie and something like this to manage the whole school. The third thing, in service training and intervention plan, that should be near to the teacher in the corridors or with students themselves. We can introduce a digital leader in class or someone who can intervene in class to assist teacher, or the supervisor can make plans to intervene in the class and assess the teacher whenever there is a problem or technical problem in class. Professional development should be sustainable because during the year long we don't have time for professional development throughout the year. We have a month before the year and the weekly meetings, and then 2 weeks after the year finishes. So we have like two weeks and a month, and then we do all the professional development, technical, academic, everything in this time. So we need sustainable, ongoing professional development that could make it, we could make use of Saturdays, but we cannot actually afford that because this is the only time for teachers to go and work outside the school. And I think there is something that's very important, which is evaluation for the intervention plans. We evaluate the teacher, but we don't evaluate the plans that we do to assist the teacher in class. So evaluating the intervention plan in service training, professional development, and this should be regular. And I think we're going to work on this. The limitation of the study, the first one was the relative shortness of time for data collection. If I had longer time, I would have created a profile for each teacher to track their changes and to be able to see where are they going from the points they are standing to. And the second thing was the researcher role being as an administrator at the time of the study. Because when I'm an administrator, sometimes people are not comfortable to say the truth, but the data I collected reflects exactly what I had in my mind that should be the stage of the concerns of the teacher at the beginning of implementing the initiative. And I guess, any questions? Thank you to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Can you hear me? Is this working?
No. You can use
Technology. Yes, I think this is better. Thank you for coming, for staying. I hope you sense the excitement of the students, their passion, their interest in learning and being lifelong learners. I really think it is impressive and touching that they have pushed themselves to the limits when they are so busy with their lives. But we believe that they are really going to make a difference, both for themselves and for whatever careers they will have. And this is just one step along the way. For students, congratulations, well done. We're proud of you. You worked hard. For families, thank you for coming, because you have supported students and stood by them. For friends, thank you. I hope you're proud of your colleagues and you're telling yourself, I should be doing that because I can make a difference. Thank you for coming. We'll see you at the graduation.